Hey, Stephen Yanni here doing the Junkyard Crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts. Now, here in America in the mid-60s, early 60s, vans became incredibly popular. But you got to remember the first van of them all perhaps was the Volkswagen microbus of 1951 through 67, popular with Grateful Dead fanatics and hippies all through the 1960s. Well, 1968 brought the Type 2, the second generation Volkswagen bus, and this is a 1971. But again, these were hugely popular. These really took over after the original microbuses and continued Volkswagen's streak of taking on Detroit's major vans with a much smaller but equally sized package, if you know what I'm trying to say. Now, original American vans usually have an engine up front, a V8 or a six-banger, a rear-wheel drive, but the magic of the Transporter is the fact that, like the Volkswagen Beetle, the entire powertrain is back here under the load floor behind the axle center line. So everything from here forward is all about function, carrying people, transporting, in other words, the term transporter. Now this one is a 1971, and a lot of upgrades were made in 71. Most importantly, we notice that the wheels on this have small holes, many of them. And those are to allow the front disc brakes, which were new for 71, to vent the heat. 1970 back to 68, there'd be a more solid wheel with a drum brake behind it. But for 71 onward, all Volkswagen Transporters had discs up front. And again, these wheels were designed to vent the heat. So these are specific, they're functional. And when you see these, you're looking at a 71 or newer Volkswagen Type 2. Inside, Volkswagen made a huge effort to make the Type 2 far more usable and civilized than the first generation. The biggest improvement really was heating. These two circular outlets here on each side of the dash blew air into your face. The first generation Volkswagen buses, there was no vents in the dash at all. They were all underneath the seats and pretty cold riding. Also, these all had standard padded dashboards right here, kind of petrified here, ossified, but again, that was a safety feature. All the knobs were soft touch, flexible to a degree. Some of these were shared with Beetle, and of course the dished steering wheel. These were all safety features. The first generation Volkswagen bus was strictly a pretty dangerous proposition to get into a crash with. Now this one here is a manual transmission. You can see it right there. The linkage goes all the way back to the rear where the transaxle's at. The automatic did arrive in 73, but previous to that they all had clutch pedals like this one here. And you talk about packaging and just basically doing the best job of form and function walking together, and these are hard to beat. Now the VINs on these things are stickers. We see this on the B pillar, the door lock pillar right there. We see this one is a 1971 model, 171, so January of 71 right there. And a very original one, not sure who would have owned this way back when, but not modified. A lot of these things were hot rodded, slammed, that sort of thing over the time. Now the big thing about the Type 2 was that it introduced not only a curved windshield for far better visibility than the original flat windows on the first gen, but this thing right here, the sliding door, which was 3.5 feet tall, 4 feet wide, and it slid out. The earlier Volkswagen buses had pull-out doors, which, if you're parked next to somebody or whatever, would be in the way. This was meant to not be obtrusive and slide back. This was copied by Ford Econoline in 1968 and a half, and eventually Chevrolet and Dodge also copied the sliding door years later. But again, Ford was first to copy it, but we saw it first on Volkswagen, the sliding door. They didn't patent it, but great idea. Why have it come out if you can just slide it back? And this one here is a transporter, so it did have seats in the back. Probably could carry a family of 10 without too much trouble. The only downside is that with under 70 horsepower, 0 to 70 miles per hour never happened. These were incapable of exceeding the 55 mile per hour speed limit, which was the rule of the land in 75 onward. So, I mean, they were legal, but if you had to get someplace in a hurry, you did not want to take one of these. You come around to the back here, and these are air-cooled. So we can see right here, these little vents, they stand tall of the body. That's all about aerodynamics. These draw air in down to the air-cooled flat floor under the load deck in the back. Let's take a peek at that. As we make our way around, again, we can see, similar to the first generation microbus, the engine cover down low, the hatch up top, sort of a divided thing, and here we have it right in here. And yeah, and this is what they look like when they were new. right here, and it first came out in '68. Volkswagen was so proud. They had this big ad with the cutaway to show all the cool stuff. And at the back here, it says, double jointed axle makes each drive wheel more secure, improves stability and handling. Previous to this, 1967 back, they actually had a spur reduction gear unit, which basically had a live axle with no double joints. It was more prone to tipping, like the Corvair, frankly. But again, for the second gen, they had double jointed drive shafts, no more spur axles, and a little bit lower stance. The engine is 253 pounds. It says here, mounted above the rear wheels to provide extra traction in snow, sand, and slush, and eliminate the need for a drive shaft. Sure enough, flat floor in these things, no draft shaft hump, no box in the middle for a V8 or a six-banger like an American van. So really, a very advanced design for what it was. Very popular. And this is Car Prices magazine, 1971. And this one basically gives the rundown of all the new American and foreign cars. But it also shows us that Volkswagen made far more than buses. You can see the van was also available as a panel delivery, the station wagon, 7 or 8 seats, station wagon with a sunroof, the combi, and a pickup truck. Yep, you get a pickup, and even the double cab, a 4-door pickup truck. You see it right here. So we got to remember that they weren't all buses. Now here's the thing, comparison on price. These things were $2,974, $300 less than competing Dodges, which are $3,300, Chevys $3,304, Ford $33. So again, $300 less, $2,974 for the base model. And unless you were in a hurry to get somewhere, this might have been the better value. Now, with that said, you weren't going to be towing any kind of a trailer of any size with one of these things. They were unit construction, minimal power. These had 70 horsepower, I believe, in 1971, a dual port head, but again, minimal horsepower. You load this thing up with 10 people or 8 people, whatever it is, and you know, incapable of speeding, not going 70 miles an hour ever. But with that said, if you weren't in a rush, these were very useful vehicles in their time. And again, the engine is down low underneath the load deck here, and there it is right there. This is the flat 4, same basic engine found in a Beetle, although a different induction setup here. The carburetor is present, but the air cleaner is set off to the side where it has this little tube in this arrangement here. That's the inlet right there, kind of cute. You expect a mouse to pop out of that. But with that said, same basic engine used in the Beetle, although this could weigh potentially twice as much with a full load as any Beetle. So not a lot of horsepower going on. But again, that wasn't the point as you made your way to the Grateful Dead show. Slow and easy. Now this one here, speaking of the Grateful Dead, we learn a lot from stickers. And this one here says here, the experiment in international living, Rattleboro, Vermont. And somewhere along the line, this might have been a commune or who knows what. Interesting idea, but a lot of folks who bought Volkswagen buses wanted the simpler things in life. And the Volkswagen bus sure as heck was simple, but functional, very popular. Now, they're not quite as hot as the first generations, which are getting big bucks, the 23 windows for $200,000 at the auctions. Crazy, but true. But as those things warm up, so too are these. So if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel. Give us a like, share this video with your Volkswagen loving friends, and hit the bell so you know when the next video comes out, which is tomorrow morning.